Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Harakakadash. The bonus to the apostles and elders of great millstone and rule well, and Shalom to all the brothers doing the work of Syrian truth. Got this article in Zero Hedge, going into, the CBDC and, how you're seeing with Brazil, how it's basically being linked up with the jump shot and, UBI. And it's all, gonna get basically leading into a system where it's all gonna be bound together and what within that charagma, that mark, that's what's gonna bind it and essentially make it all one set of information and a way that you can't separate that from the person. Because why? Because it's gonna be in their body. So it says social credit Brazilian style. All UBI recipients must have the jump shot. It says this is what CBDCs are being built for. Anybody who seriously thinks that UBI programs of the future won't be full-blown social credit systems need look no further than Brazil, when newly elected socialist globalist Lula da Silva just decreed that the Bolsa Familia program will require family members to have the jump shot in order to continue receiving benefits. We can't play. It's a question of science. If I have 10 jump shots to take, I'll take that all that is necessary. And that seems like an exaggeration, but even now it's like those people talking about, like people I work with talking about getting a top up, and I was like, bro, if you done research into it, if you looked into it, when they were saying like, okay, how impactful, how effective is this? This shit lasts like what it said, less than 6 months, something to that effect. No, less than like 3 months or something, and every time you apply a new one, it's less effective. So to basically have it as a force thing, I'm like, bro, it's it's essentially where you're seeing where for you to have access to benefits, for you to have receive aid from the government, you're then gonna have to comply. And Brazil's obviously pushed further than where it's been taken over here. But it's like, I think they can push things through easier there, and it's like there's more groundwork that needs to be laid over here. Having the means, the systems established to have those digital currencies running, those means of of tracking and having these systems interlock. Because what's news comes from the Rio Times, which describes the Bolsa program as a social welfare program for the poorest families in Brazil and a kind of UBI. So it says UBI is considered by many to be beneficent and inevitable. I personally believe the latter, but not the former. So skipping down a bit, it says CBDCs will be the rails for UBI programs. The emergence of central bank digital currency initiatives in nearly every nation on earth clearly signal the direction this is going. Yeah, and it's just like with the what degree of equipment's being sent off to Ukraine, where the US was like, no, we're not going to send X, we're not going to send this. As soon as the the dam breaks, one person sends it, then everyone else is jumping on. So it was like, oh, we're not going to send aircraft. Then Zelensky's on his media tour. Came to the UK, went to Europe, asking for it. Now it's looking like he's getting. Well, he went to the US first. Now it's looking like he's gonna get. So it says nearly every CBDC white paper or proposal I've come across have these following three characteristics. 5 capabilities baked in, whether or not they're initially enabled, and there's what expiry dates. So that's something they're already doing in China, where they're basically they did it as free money to give out to spend digital yuan, and then it expired. It was like, I think, a week. You had like a week to use it, and then it would be done. But it was just, a separate little top up thing to regular people working. So it's obviously to see, how people spend, and to essentially be like, look, you're gonna have to spend it. You ain't gonna be able to, like, build up savings. I would say the other thing is anti-hoarding features. Number 2, it says saving for the future is being rebranded as hoarding, and it's becoming officially unfashionable because personal savings reduce dependency on the state. The easiest mechanism for achieving this will be through negative interest rates on savings accounts, as per this IMF white paper. Yeah. Which, that's something that they can pull off, but it's like once these systems are established, they're obviously gonna have the marketing. They're gonna sell it because just like with Brazil, there's a lot of social upheaval, and they're going back to the look where gonna make your life easy. Gonna drop bucks in your account. Gonna make sure you're taken care of. But then what's the third one? Total information awareness. Once it's digitized in a centralized database as opposed to being cryptographically secured on a decentralized blockchain, everything becomes known to the central authorities instantly. Taxation can be applied per transaction, but more interestingly, prices can be modified on the fly. So yeah, it's essentially lets you can have it where the price of something might adjust as you might uh start paying for like multiple well, someone could come in and buy like 25 an item, then the price might go up because there's less stock left or something. They can have these kind. Essentially, it allows for that total control, and in a means where and the thing is now it's already like the inherent value of money, because it used to be what, silver, gold, precious metals, essentially, that was backing it. Since that's been removed, it's become more abstract as people kind of look at it. They don't really think, well, they already know, like, oh, pound's worthless, but it's an agreement and blah blah blah. So then when it comes to a bunch of digital transactions, moving on to where they're then just being like, okay, yeah, this is just it's money, but it's just it's just digital transactions, blah blah blah. Then that, what do you call it? Once they move into that mindset, then blimey. But shifting to the full blown beast system comes easier and easier, especially for the younger generations where there's like kids where they're toddlers and whatnot. They'll come to shops with their parents and then they'll just use the card and pay contactlessly. They ain't thinking about counting out coins. They ain't thinking about no notes. Parents, you might even have notes. I remember when I was in primary school, you would have it's fucking throwing me back. Yeah, that's fucking funny. In primary school, you'd have like toy money, so you'd have toy notes, like Monopoly money kind of stuff, but obviously meant to reflect the British notes over here, like 50, 20, 10, fiver, and then you'd have coins. Well, no £2 coin back then, so it would just been a £1, 50p, 20p, 10p, 5p, 2 and 1p, and then you would have to do, like, obviously learn how to add, subtract, whatever, all the different values of money, so you can get used to, adding up money. But it's like now with these coming generations, they might do that in school, but they might not really fuck with money like that. Coins and notes, to where they're even familiar. They might not even be able to add it all, add and subtract, because that's how sharply it's shifted to where now you get used to paying with an Apple Watch or an iPhone or whatever contactless card. So if you have to sit there and then rifle through notes or even inserting your card to do chip and pin. For you to get a card with no contactless, you have to go out of your way to basically ask for that. But yeah, people are getting patient. So yeah, it says if you're behind on your property income taxes or have an unpaid fine, maybe because you're fighting it, for example, they could simply enable rolling garnishee on your wallet until it's paid off. Well, so that total control. It says imagine if Loon, and then social credit systems, says imagine if Looncoin was a thing last year when the hashtag Freedom Convoy hit Ottawa and signaled the beginning of a worldwide revolt against C19 tyranny. Instead of emailing a list of bank accounts to be frozen, they would be cribbed from a hack spreadsheet that could simply direct the Bank of Canada to turn off everyone's digital wallets who were in the vicinity of the protests, or who contributed to their crowdfund, or who retweeted the hashtag Hong Kong hashtag. Yeah. So that's why it's like with these things, they've from when they've been centralized, they then it's pizza pie from that stage. And as well, it's like people that are, when it's got to that point, most people will do anything because why? It's the classic Neo quote from the Matrix when it's right at the beginning, and he's basically teaching him the basics. Says what? It's like, you know, your job's to free their minds. But some people are so hopelessly dependent upon the system, they'll do anything in their power to keep it, operate, keep it running. And that's a state for you, as it's gonna be a that gradual climb, or there's gonna be, some form of, event, something can go down where there can be a drastic shift in how money's utilized. And then once those changes start coming in, hey, people that don't resist, they're just gonna fold to the further changes. Because that's already been shown with, the C19, the pandemic. You had those that resist, those that were out protesting the whole time. Those are, few in number. But then what? You had that big bulk, that big majority, where they were just complying and then just enforcing it, just saying, well, do it! As long as they do it, it'll be fine. It's actually wild, man. And now it's like, they're doing research in them and finding out all that shit they were doing was, surprise, surprise, useless. A lot of that shit was completely useless. But, no one wants to talk about it now. Now they're saying, look, we, don't think about that. Just, we, what's the last one? Carbon footprint tracking. Yeah, which that shit, they're fucking putting that shit in a lot of stuff. Where you'll, keep track of your carbon footprint. And then that links up with the Georgia Guidestones where they say what? They'll say, oh, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetuity of nature, but that 500, being under 500 million don't make no sense. Because why? How about Jimmy O'Shea said, what? Go forth and multiply. uh, Ecclesiasticus 12:10, it says, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. And that's why they were looking at it's okay, but you can have simpletons just say like, blah blah blah, but then you have to look at who is enacting these things. What's our relationship with him been? Because when you deal with Esau, Edom, then their relationship with, Jake, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians isn't obviously it's complete madness. Um, they there's no way we're gonna get on. So then, saying we should comply and abide within your system, that make no sense. Because Jake's method, for salvation is completely alien to what Esau's trying to enact. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and that thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Yeah. That's been the modus operandi of Esau from when he's been on the scene. Coming against Jake, keeping Jake in that dumbed down, simplified state. It's to his benefit. It's to his benefit. Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith. Yeah. Gotta highlight what this guy is all about, so you're not found slipping. And that's what majority of Jake are gonna do. They're basically gonna be like, oh, well, just and that'll be forever. They'll make excuses as every step goes down the line. Be like, oh, my kids, my family, my job, etc. These things they're trying to justify themselves with. This as well. Revelation 13 and 2, and it says, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. It's the other thing. The whole world's just wondering after, because why? They're marveling, they're seeing what, the miracles that Esau's able to do. And they're thinking like, damn, these things, well, like, what if that's what they're setting up? How are we even going to compete? How are we going to, this guy's the guy, man. He's the chosen. The whole world wondered after the beast, but I'll skip down. I'll just go to the point. It says what? Revelation 13:16, and he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Yeah. That's where it ends up. That charagmatic mark basically being utilized, to tie you into the system. And that's what, how they'll be able to get away with so much. Because why? People are complying, so the place can keep running. Because, people are out here, smoking 20 a day, tricking themselves into a stupor, with no meaningful connections in their life. But they think there's some hope, some salvation to be found within the system, but only within it. If you go outside of it, then you're basically gonna be getting lightning bolts from you dropping out of the heavens to zap you, man. It's gonna be awful. You're not gonna have any means, to clean yourself. You're gonna be living like a, so-called caveman, as Esau refers to them. But what's the reality? This kingdom is one of the most, horrendous, unsustainable, backwards places to exist. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.